I'm standing here today, years later, looking at the very school courtyard where it all happened, and I can still feel the way the air felt that morning, heavy, humid, and hostile. Back then, I wasn't the one who got hurt. I wasn't the one who stood in the middle of the crowd. I was just a silent witness, someone who could have spoken up but didn't, and that silence still echoes in my chest. My name is Marcus, and before I tell you about what the new girl did to make those bullies pay, I have to take you back to the first moment she stepped through those gates. You need to understand the world she walked into. That Monday morning, the school was buzzing with the usual noise, sneakers squeaking against the wet pavement, the smell of cafeteria pancakes spilling into the air, voices bouncing off the brick walls. Everyone's eyes turned when they saw her. A girl none of us had seen before. Tall, with thick curly hair pulled back into a loose bun, caramel brown skin glowing under the weak sunlight, wearing a plain white t-shirt tucked into faded blue jeans. She carried a worn brown backpack with one strap hanging loose, and though her face looked calm, there was something in her eyes, that wary kind of alertness you see in people who've learned to scan a room before they even sit down. Her name, we later learned, was Alina Torres. 17 years old. Moved from Houston to our small town because her mom got a nursing job at the local hospital. But on that first day, no one cared about her story. They just cared about the fact that she was new, and in our school, that made her vulnerable. The hierarchy here was cruel and simple, the loudest and most popular ruled, and everyone else either played along or kept their heads down. And Alina, she didn't seem like the type to bow her head. It started small. The whispers when she walked by. The side-eye from the girls who thought she was too confident. The smirks from the boys who noticed her curves and thought that gave them the right to comment. But on the third day, things shifted from words to something much worse. We were all in the courtyard during lunch. The sun had finally burned away the morning clouds, and most people were crowded near the vending machines. That's when Jake Morris, is tall, broad-shouldered, the self-proclaimed king of the senior class, decided to make his move. He was leaning against the wall with his crew when Alina walked past to throw away her lunch tray. His friends laughed at something he whispered, and then, as if it was the most casual thing in the world, Jake reached out and patted her hip. Not a brush. Not an accident. A deliberate, disgusting gesture that made my stomach twist even as a few idiots in the crowd chuckled. The courtyard went quiet for a second. Alina froze, her hand tightening around the tray. Jake grinned like he'd just won some game, and his friends laughed louder. I remember thinking she'd either walk away or yell. But she didn't do either. She turned her head slowly, looked Jake dead in the eyes, and gave the smallest smile, a smile so calm it made him shift his weight like he wasn't sure what he'd just started. She said nothing that day. She walked back to her table, sat down, and ate the rest of her lunch like nothing happened. But later, I would realize that smile was a promise. That evening, rumors spread fast. Some people thought she was intimidated. Others said she was planning something. And I kept thinking about that moment. About how she didn't break, didn't cry, didn't give him the reaction he wanted. I didn't know it then, but Alina had grown up with a Marine father who taught her more than just self-defense, he taught her patience. And patience, in her hands, was a weapon. The next day, she showed up wearing the same faded jeans and a loose hoodie. No makeup. No attempt to blend in. But her eyes were sharper, her movements deliberate. I think Jake noticed it too, because during gym period, he kept throwing glances her way. Our school gym was the perfect stage for the kind of humiliation he loved, crowded, loud, with plenty of bystanders. And sure enough, when the teacher stepped out for a phone call, Jake walked over to where Alina was stretching by the bleachers. I saw it before it happened. The way his hand started to move toward her again. But this time, she moved first. In one fluid motion, she stepped aside, grabbed his wrist, twisted it behind his back, and swept his leg from under him. It happened so fast that his body hit the hardwood with a thud that silenced the entire gym. She didn't scream, didn't gloat, just leaned down and whispered something into his ear that made his face go pale. Then she let him go and walked back to the bleachers like nothing had happened. The whispers spread like wildfire. By lunch, everyone knew Jake had been taken down by the new girl. Some thought she was lucky. Others said she was dangerous. But the truth was simpler, she had waited. She had picked the moment when everyone was watching, when Jake's own arrogance would make him fall harder. And she'd done it without breaking a sweat. Jake didn't bother her again. In fact, he avoided her for the rest of the year. But here's the part most people didn't see, the part one only found out later. After gym, Alina had gone to the principal's office, reported exactly what Jake had done in the courtyard, and handed over security footage from the cameras. By the next week, Jake was suspended. Standing here now, I realize I wasn't just watching a girl defend herself. I was watching someone reclaim her dignity in a world that tried to strip it away. And if I could go back to that courtyard, I wouldn't stay silent. I'd stand beside her. So if you're hearing this, maybe you're in your own courtyard right now. At school, at work, anywhere people think they can take from you without consequence. Remember Alina's patience. Remember that smile. And remember, the quiet ones aren't weak. Sometimes, they're just waiting for the perfect moment to strike.